So there's a few different ways that you can stretch or compress the length of a sample. If you know the BPM of the sample you're trying to stretch, you can right-click on the time knob under this sampler channel, which you can get to by either clicking on it within the sequencer or double-clicking on the audio file itself. So once you get here, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to right-click on the time knob, come down to Auto Detect, and click Type in BPM. And basically what you type here is the BPM of the sample that you're trying to stretch. So we know that this one is 100 BPM. And so once I hit enter, you'll see that it restretched the sample to fit the BPM of the project. So you may be asking yourself, well, what do I do in the case that I don't know the BPM of the sample? Or what if I'd like to just stretch a specific note or region of the sample? So luckily, FL gives you the option to stretch a sample by dragging it to the length that you'd like it to be. So let's say that we took a loop like this and we wanted to fit it to the drum loop that we originally started with. So I think what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll try to show you how I would try to fit this into the song if I didn't know the BPM. So the first thing that you need to do if you're looking to basically stretch a sample to the length that you want it is you need to come up here and there's three options here. You want to click on the one that looks like a kind of like an audio wave file, and right below that you'll see two different options. One says Z-Cross, the other says stretch. You're going to want to make sure that stretch is engaged. When I'm doing like fine slicing of samples, I tend to turn the grid off so that I can slice it perfectly. So this would be obviously the end of the first note, so I'm going to slice it there. Going to slice the next one about there, next there, next one there, there, there. Okay, so that should be good for now. So I'm gonna drag down these other notes and mute them so I can focus on this first one. So let's see. So I think I want the second note to come in right about halfway through this bar right here. So what I'll do, make sure the stretch option's engaged, and then you click on the end that you want stretched, and you drag it to wherever it is that you want. Now, it's important to note that if you haven't made the sample you're stretching unique, and it's a longer sample like this, then when you stretch that section, it's essentially going to stretch everything in the loop. So if you only want a certain section stretched, I'm going to reset that and basically make the sample unique. So you click on the top left corner of the audio clip and then click on Make Unique as Sample. If you click on Make Unique, it's just going to make a copy of the original loop without changing any of the information. It'll just be a separate copy. So in order to isolate this one note right here, or this chord, you need to click the Make Unique as Sample. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to double click it, come down to, actually before I do that, I'm going to stretch it to the desired length. So one of the things that you may notice there is that the pitch changed after I stretched it. So what you want to do is double click on the sample, and then come to the mode section over here, and it automatically is going to default to resample. So what we need to do is change it to one that prevents it from adjusting the pitch when we stretch or compress the sample. The one I like to use is called E2 Generic, so I'm going to click that. So now we're back to the original pitch of the note. You should also, I guess, there's a lot of other different options you have here, but I find that the generic one is the most transparent in terms of like keeping the integrity of the original sample. So you might want to mess around with these other ones, but if you want it to sound as close to the original sample as possible, I'd recommend the E2 generic mode. So we stretched our first chord, and then I want the second one to come in here, so I'll drag this here. Okay, I don't actually want that note in there, so I'm going to just erase that and use the next chord. Don't like that one either. See if this is it. Okay, so I'm liking that a lot better. What I'd like to do with this part of the sample is I'd like to stretch it out to basically fit the loop. So we're going to click on the upper left-hand corner, go to Make Unique as Sample. I'm just going to save it like that. And then click the generic mode, and then begin to stretch the sample to the length I'd like it. Okay. So that's working fine so far. I'm going to extend this a bit. Okay. I'm going to make this one unique. And I'm going to begin stretching it. Okay, so about there. And then, let's see. So this should be my last chord. Gonna make it unique as sample. Save it. Engage the generic mode. And then stretch the sample. So now we should have a decent sounding loop. Bit of a disco vibe. So yeah, this is the way that I go about stretching samples if I don't know the BPM or if I need it to be longer or shorter. So I think that's pretty much it for the stretching. Between these two different options where you type in the BPM or stretch it to the length that you need it, I think that pretty much covers most scenarios that you're going to run into. One other thing that I guess I'll mention is that earlier we talked about engaging the stretch mode. If the stretch mode is off, then you can adjust the length of a sample, but when I let go, it's not gonna re-stretch the sample. So it just cuts out the section that you want when the stretch mode isn't engaged. So just be aware of both of these options. They're both super useful, but there's a time and a place for everything. So yeah, that's it for the stretch portion of this video. Hope you learned something, and we'll see you next time.